which I should not have to look down, Soohyun Cho, who is the co-convener of the conference and the person who has really led so much of this work. For a very few number of minutes. After some solid arm twisting on my part, along with a number of amazing students from the DHLC lab, student researchers, Soohyun Cho, Dr. Soohyun Cho, Professor Soohyun Cho is an assistant professor of integrative arts and humanities and an affiliated researcher now with the DHLC, where she's led or collaborated on interdisciplinary work with us for over 7 years. She specializes in health humanities, disability studies, digital humanities, and all of the above, with a particular interest in cognitive approaches to fiction. And as I said, again, she's here with a range of student researchers, some alums, and some current students. We also have Michael Zerulnik. I believe he is, again, I think I'm going to get this wrong, Associate Vice President?
Assistant Vice President.
Assistant Vice President. Assistant Vice President of Creighton University in Phoenix. Also in tandem with his work in medicine, he's a practicing artist, award-winning communication scholar, educator, and consultant. His designs have been shown on the runways of South Africa Fashion Week and curated by retailers around the US, including New York City, Miami, and Phoenix. And he really dedicates his contemporary works, partnerships, and exhibitions in this deep way towards thinking about opportunities for informal education, both medical education and beyond. Lieutenant Colonel Jessica Lopez is a PhD alum from MSU, also alum from the lab, the DHLC, who specializes in disability studies and digital humanities and other things. Right now, she is an assistant professor at the U.S. Air Force Academy in the Department of English and Fine Arts, and deputy head of the department her first few years there. She was one of the people who hosted our, I believe, second satellite exhibition as part of this, focusing on neurodiversity and self-care and accessibility. It was fantastic. And she is currently exploring all kinds of career paths. And finally, I wanted to introduce Sean Yeager, who is a researcher and teacher who thinks deeply about neurodivergence and how it responds in lived and embodied experiences. And I've lost my place. He has a background in particle physics, which I can't wait to talk to him about someday, but who investigates contemporary literature through the lenses of digital humanities, narrative theory, and neuroqueer studies. So with that, let's have our panel, and let's go.
Push the button on the bottom.
Oh, sorry, I turned it off.
Thank you.
Because why?
So I've been, as Natalie mentioned, I've been working on this project from the very beginning, co-writing grand narratives 3 a.m. in the morning from Korea when COVID just hit. And from day one, it has always been our effort to integrate accessibility from the outset and not as a final afterthought to meet the ADA compliances. So for our team, accessibility is an ongoing process that to make pandemic artworks and stories as accessible as possible to as many as possible. So Tusha, Madge, Braden, Lorraine, and Natalie here will share some of the creative choices that we've made along the way. But before we get into the details, I wanted to share and shout out to the list of everyone who has contributed to this project, and the list goes on. It's sad that I don't have time to read out all the names today, but they have been a partner in crime in joining our mission in making creating a new standards for accessibility in galleries, institutions, universities and online resources. And like this just highlight the inherently collaborative and interdependent nature of accessibility work that goes way beyond the 6 of us who are presenting here today. So, partnering with a variety of stakeholders across institutions also meant that we were grappling with the question between ideal versus practicality, which sometimes it meant that we were challenging the administrative system, for instance, asking questions like, how do you make reporting system more accessible? Like how for one of our partners who has visual disabilities. So, but at the same time, when we felt like we were like hitting our heads against the wall, we were also reminded of the small changes that we were able to make, like starting from within our own team. So we do have a diverse body minds in our team, and it led us to, it just became the norm for us to check everyone's different access needs. And co-devising those creative ways how to accommodate different bodies and minds. So this for me mirrors the practice of care and support that people practiced often during the peak of the pandemic when we all started asking everyone, how are you feeling today? But that's enough of me saying. I will pass it over to Tusha, who will go into the details.
I think the battery just died.
Pass it.
Hello, I'm Tusha. I've been here since day one, since this project was, was not even in the works. We just had an idea of a small little Google form which we started sending out to some of the students in Natalie's class and other people. And I'm so happy to be here when we have this exhibit and see all the amazing work that a lot, probably even around 100 people, more than 100 people, and over thousands of artists have done. And I want to take the next 2 minutes to talk about how this survey was created. I'm also losing my voice, so I'm sorry about that. The survey process was actually much longer than most people would think. I think it was over 6 months. We made so many different copies of this, and we tried so many different modalities, including Microsoft Forms, Google, Qualtrics, and all kinds of other things. But we ended up picking Google as one of the primary survey, and it was a lot of different things that we did with it, but we ended up creating unified English Braille copies of our survey. We had the survey translated to American Sign Language. These videos were available on YouTube, and this playlist was created and sort of attached to each and every single questionnaire. We also were very accommodating to anybody who wanted to reach out to us and said they needed a different modality so that we can accommodate them and work with them to get their art into our repository. And we ended up getting over 2,000 artworks and 400 stories across several different countries. You can see some of that on the slides behind. Some of the countries included Mexico, Korea, China, Colombia, India, Canada, and many more. And we had a bunch of different submissions from within the US. We also were able to reach out to a bunch of different communities that we wanted to work with. We wanted to get as many voices as we can. This was primarily done through the snowball effect. A lot of our brilliant undergrads spend hours and hours emailing so many people, art institutions, artists, professors in different institutions, and it was more like a snowball effect. Whenever we got a response, we asked them to share it. We also went to different things. I remember Natalie, me, and Sue, we drove down to Grand Rapids for Art Prize and distributed our QR codes. So it was like our community reaching out to everybody, and it was a snowball effect. And we were limited by digital access. That was one thing we recognized, but it still allowed us to capture a wide range of patterns during COVID-19, and our submissions are proof of that. And we also have some of the demographic information from the original Google form. So yeah, thank you. And now I will pass this on to Madge.
Apologies as I very awkwardly turn my head to look at my slides. So could you go forward, please? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe what the things were we made. I'm first going to give a self-description. I'm a white woman in my late 20s with pink tinted glasses, and I'm wearing a green dress. And first we did alt text. And what is alt text? Well, it's embedded within the code of a website. It's usually within 150 characters, and it's a brief visual description of an object. Next slide, please. And then we also did image descriptions, and image descriptions are a elaborated form of that with more detail. They're usually posted along with an image. And then we also did audio description, which is basically the same thing as image descriptions, only for video. So you, in the video, between pauses and dialogue, speak what's going on screen. We also did pre-shows, which means that before the video started, we would give a description of the visuals. There was no time to say in between the gaps in audio. Is that for me? Okay.
Oh, no, that's Braden, I think.
Braden.
So I'm just going to talk a bit about the process of recording, the audios and those QR codes out in the exhibit. So the main thing I want to address is, why we have human readers instead of, an auto-generated screen reader. In order to make it genuinely accessible to people, not just kind of an afterthought, but something that we focused on throughout the entire process of making this. We wanted to have actual readers, so we had me and a few other students in the lab, as well as some collaborators from outside of the lab. Record, every narrative artist statement, every image description for all the pieces that you see on the exhibit, so that people who are experiencing our exhibit through this way, through listening, could actually, be immersed somewhat, kind of the cadence of a human reader, not kind of the stilted, awkward robot voice. Also, so we had students record with Zoom recorders lended out by the Makerspace at the library. Then we uploaded those to SoundCloud and attached them to the QR codes, and that's how you're able to access them.
Hello everyone, I'm Lorraine. I did the graphic design for this exhibition. So there were a lot of things that needed to be designed. So that's like marketing, anything that's marketing, anything that's advertisement, but also anything that's in the exhibit that isn't specifically the art submissions we received. And throughout this process, there was a lot of learning for me about creating accessible design. And what I ended up finding is that the principles of accessibility in visual design are very similar to the principles of graphic design itself. So emphasizing things like contrast and clarity became crucially important in this process. And you can see one of the posters up there, the one that's on the left. It utilizes a descending visual effect, this gradient effect. And an important part of, just for instance, this design was the contrast on the last instance of the word COVID-19, and emphasizing that there were many iterations where it just became more and more emphasized as we realized that it was not truly accessible yet. And there were many cases of this. This is just a microcosm of the entire iterative process of creating accessible advertising, accessible marketing, but in many ways accessible art in and of itself. So these are two things that are in the lookout gallery right now. So both of these designs had their own challenges going into it. One of them is very dense with its text, right? And then the other one is very visually busy, but by keeping in mind these principles of accessibility, we create a better experience for everyone. That is easier to read, easier to understand, and just more effective in achieving what we want to achieve. Because design is a process of answering questions, of solving problems, of meeting needs. And accessibility, I found, has been much of the same, solving problems, meeting needs. Oh, wait, no, sorry. We also had to design things that were specifically for accessibility. So if you see in the Lookout Gallery, there are small Braille books, small Braille programs. So those had to be designed, and then also stuff for like the signs for the low sensory space. And all of these, the function of those pieces is like the most important aspect of them, right? So making sure that they're actually useful, that they're actually fulfilling their purpose became very important and very evident through that process.
Okay, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about accessibility in the exhibit. So we, first to pick the spaces, we did multiple walkthroughs of each one and really tried to figure out like the lighting, temperature, open space, like noise level in each one. And after we determined both Lookout Gallery and Metro Space, we went through and decided what we could change to help make the space more accessible. So one of the ways that we did that is with hanging the artwork. All artwork is hung at 30 to 40 inches. That's a level that's more accessible to everyone to see. And then smaller artwork is hung lower. In addition to this, all the turning radiuses in all of the exhibits are 70 inches. So that makes it more comfortable and open so people can walk around. And then two of the other ones are, we have a multitude of signage in all of our exhibits to lead to the exhibit, throughout the places to get there, and also QR codes. Each piece of artwork has a specific placard and it has a QR code that will take you when you scan it to a specific SoundCloud link that has audio descriptions for the art piece. And they also each have Braille on all of those as well.